Battle through the heavens. During the next few days, Xiao Yan would spend nearly 10 hours to help Jin Shi expel the Heaven Mountain fire poison within Jin Shi's body on a daily basis. Under his effort to expel the poison, Jin Shi's spirit was getting better every day. Hence, his attitude to Xiao Yan gradually changed from the treatment of someone equal to the current courteous and respectful one. Although Xiao Yan had just broken through to the Dou Zone class not long ago, his other status as an alchemist was sufficient to cause a person at Jin Shi's level to treat him politely. After all, everyone knew what a lucky thing it was to be able to befriend a high-tier alchemist. Xiao Yan's remaining effort during these couple of days was spent on the demon poison spot within his body. Every day that this time bomb-like thing, which had pestered him for a few years, was not removed, it would stay a thorn within his heart that would cause him to always feel a little uncomfortable. A fire was burning fiercely within the wooden basin of a rock house permeated by hot air. Only the middle spot of the house was void of hot air. That place was where Jin Shi's head was protruding from the medicinal water. At this moment, Jin Shi appeared extremely energetic. Both his aura and his liveliness were far from what his previous sickly self could compare with. Clearly, the expelling of the poison by Xiao Yan during this period of time was quite effective. The fog permeated the place for a long time before it slowly thinned. The medicinal water within the wooden basin had also become clear. The medicinal liquid within it had already entered Jin Shi's body. Jin Shi leaped out of the wooden basin after having put on his clothes. He sensed the life force that seeped out of his body and a joy surfaced on his old face. He cupped his hands and solemnly said to Xiao Yan, "Little brother Xiao Yan, a simple thanks does not do such a big favor justice. The old me shall remember this." Xiao Yan grinned. He took out 2 jade bottles from his storage ring and handed them to Jin Shi. He uttered, "I will leave tomorrow. This is the medicinal liquid and medicinal pill needed to expel the poison. Most of the fire poison within your body has already been expelled. Hence, there is no longer a need for me to use the heavenly flame as a catalyst. You should have already learned the poison expelling method during this period of time. Hence, I shall not say anything more about it. If you follow the method, the fire poison in your body will be completely removed within 2 to 3 months. You are leaving tomorrow?" Jin Shi was startled upon hearing this. He hurriedly confirmed what had been said. Jin Shi could only nod his head when he saw Xiao Yan's insistence. He received the 2 jade bottle and said in a deep voice, "Little brother Xiao Yan, if you meet with any trouble in the future, you can come and find me in the Heavenai mountain range. Even that old fellow Fei Tian would not dare to do anything to you in this place." Xiao Yan smiled. Although Jin Shi was a magical beast, he valued relationships. The strength of the gold-swallowing mouse tribe was weak when compared to the wind-lightning pavilion. However, he was still able to say such words. From the looks of it, he was a worthy person to befriend. In that case, I shall thank Elder Jin Shi first. Xiao Yan was seated cross-legged on a bed within a room that was filled with a gentle light. His upper body was naked. There was a dark black ink-like spot on his chest, which was vaguely emitting a stench. Surrounding the black spot were some unusual symbols. They wrapped around the countless number of black lines spreading from the black spot. These symbols were the seal that little fairy doctor had placed on him. However, the symbols had become a lot paler after the erosion of the demon poison spot during these few years. It seemed that it would not be able to hold out for long. Although he had not met both conditions, Xiao Yan vaguely sensed that his current self was no longer as helpless against this demon poison spot as he was back then. His breakthrough this time around was a great benefit to him. Xiao Yan frowned and thought deeply for a while. After which, he suddenly clenched his teeth. A thought passed through his mind and the jade-green flame swiftly moved within his body. It quickly gathered at his chest and surrounded the demon poison spot. After having made up his mind, Xiao Yan's mind controlled a thread of flame that sprang out. It came to the demon poison spot and coiled around it. After which, it suddenly pounced forward. Xiao Yan controlled the flame perfectly. The small gap was insufficient to cause the demon poison spot to erupt, but it was also able to drag a small portion out. The crack had just been formed when the demon poison spot within it, which had been quiet for many years, suddenly began to surge. The black cluster wiggled and a thumb-sized, black line separated from the body before rushing to the gap. Xiao Yan's mind tensed up when he saw that black line shoot out. The jade-green flame around the seal became turbulent, like a sea of fire, as it surrounded the area around his chest until nothing could seep out. A coldness also flashed through Xiao Yan's eyes as he looked at the dark black, somewhat sinister line. If he had yet to break through to the Dou Zone class at this moment, it was likely that this demon poison spot black line would have turned his body into a complete mess. Fortunately, the current him had truly reached the Dou Zone class. A thought passed through Xiao Yan's mind and the jade-green sea of flames around his chest immediately transformed into numerous fire dragons. These dragons were accompanied by a low, deep roar as they surged toward the black line. While the thread of the demon poison spot was feeling uncertain, the fire dragon instantly arrived. The flames swept over and surrounded the black line. After which, the flames twisted together, transforming into a cluster of fierce green flame that wrapped the black line and swiftly began to refine it. Faced with the refinement of the glazed lotus heart flame, the demon poison spot black line also began to resist. Waves of corrosive fog unceasingly surged into his body. After which, the fog collided with the surrounding flames. Chi. The black fog collided onto the flame and a chi sound immediately erupted. The current glazed lotus heart flame might have difficulty completely refining the demon poison spot, but it did not have a problem refining this small portion of it. After the poison within was removed, an extremely pure, substance like Dou Qi appeared in front of Xiao Yan's mind. This cluster of Dou Qi did not possess the slightest consciousness. It simply remained within the flame without moving. Danger and reward indeed coexisted in everything in this world. Xiao Yan's mind controlled this wave of Dou Qi, and directed it along the route of the flame mantra, immediately making it his own. Xiao Yan's heart laughed when he sensed the tiny increase of strengthened Dou Qi within his body. His mind once again reached into the demon poison spot. After which, he continued to drag a small amount of demon poison spot poison from it. The effect of this thing is something that even some tier 7 medicinal pills cannot compare with. That old fellow Xie Bai Yan has really given me a great gift, eh? Xiao Yan continued to dragging poison out of the demon poison spot and used the glazed lotus heart flame to refine it throughout the night. Only when the sky gradually became bright did he, who was still in a rock house, slowly open his eyes. An entire night's refinement did not cause Xiao Yan to feel the least bit tired. Instead, due to the replenishment of the enormous amount of Dou Qi, his condition was perfectly at his peak. A faint glow was flickering while he blinked. This was due to the great surge of Dou Qi in his body that was difficult to hide. After having absorbed all the Dou Qi within the 10 clusters of poison, Xiao Yan could vaguely feel that his strength had improved. Although this feeling was not very obvious, it was considered quite incredible. After all, each star within the Dou Zone class required an extremely great amount of energy. If Xiao Yan were to train in an orthodox fashion, it was likely that he would require nearly 3 to 4 months in order to reach this stage even with his speed, yet he was able to reach it in one night. This effectiveness was already quite great. Ugh, it is indeed very difficult to raise one's level in the Dou Zone class. No wonder First Elder's level did not experience a great increase despite having trained for so many years. Xiao Yan sighed softly in his heart. He took out his clothes and put them back on. Currently, the Dou Qi in his body had reached saturation and needed a period of time of adaptation before he could once again absorb Dou Qi from the demon poison spot. Fortunately, with his current strength, the demon poison spot no longer posed a fatal threat to him. Instead, this thing was treated as a movable Dou Qi warehouse by Xiao Yan. Looks like it is time to leave. The 4-pavilion grand meeting is about to be held in a few days. Xiao Yan leaped down from the bed. He mused for a moment before packing his things properly. After which, he did not stay any longer. He pushed open the door and simply walked out. Xiao Yan overlooked the Heaven-Eye Mountain as he stood in the sky. He involuntarily smiled and walked forward. This was something that he had dreamed of. It was unexpected that he was able to fulfill it now. 2 figures hurried over when Xiao Yan rose into the air. "Little brother Xiao Yan, are you going to leave now?" Jin Shi appeared. He looked at Xiao Yan and hurriedly asked. Xiao Yan nodded and laughed. "I still have some matters to attend to and cannot remain here for long. Thank you both for your great hospitality. If I have time in the future, I will come and visit." Jin Shi and Jin Gu could not say any other words to get Xiao Yan to stay after they heard this. They immediately replied in deep voices, "Little brother Xiao Yan, the gold-swallowing mouse tribe owes you a big favor. If you meet any trouble in the future, please do not forget about us old fellows. Cuckoo, looking at your anxious face, the 2 of us shall not hold you back any longer. We will pray for your journey to be smooth." Jin Gu smiled, cupped his hands, and spoke. "In that case, I shall borrow Elder Jin Gu's blessing. Goodbye." With Xiao Yan's speed, he had already exited the region of the Heaven-Eye Mountain range within 10+ minutes. Originally, with his current strength, his speed would have been a little faster if he used the bone wings. However, the words of the Grey Wolf King were firmly etched in his heart. Although he had currently advanced to the Dou Zone class, this strength was really insignificant when compared to the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe. Hence, unless it was a critical moment, it was best that he used the bone wings as little as possible in the future. Xiao Yan's figure stopped on a mountain peak outside of the Heaven-Eye Mountain range. He took a map of the northern region from his space ring. The map he had purchased in Bone Transforming City back then. After which, he began to search for something on it. It is so far away. Looks like I will need about 5 days just to travel there. Xiao Yan bitterly laughed after putting the map back into his storage ring. It was fortunate that it had reached the level of a Dou Zone. Otherwise, it was likely that he would not have been able to hurry to the Eastern Pavilion without 10 days to half a month's time. At that time, it was likely that the gathering would have ended. Looks like I should travel quickly. Otherwise, it will be unlucky if I miss it. Xiao Yan sighed as he faced the eastern sky. A bright silver glow slowly surfaced on his feet. Immediately, muffled thunder sounded. His body disappeared in a ghost-like manner. The 4-pavilion grand meeting, as the name suggested, was naturally conducted by the 4 pavilions in the Central Plains. Although the main characters were the 4 pavilions, each season of the 4-pavilion grand meeting would be a grand event within the Central Plains region. Although it could not be put in the same category as the Pill Gathering of the Pill Tower, it was also a rare event. This 4-pavilion grand meeting was not a competition between the experts of the older generations. Instead, it was a competition for the younger generation. Of course, the younger generation, who could represent the 4 pavilions, were naturally the most outstanding people among the younger generation of each party. New blood was the most important thing if each faction wanted to survive. Hence, the 4 pavilions paid great attention to the younger generation. Under their great focus on grooming the younger generation, it was natural that quite a number of outstanding individuals had appeared among them: the Wind Lightning Pavilions Feng Qing Air, the 10,000 Sword Pavilions Tang Ying, the Yellow Spring Pavilions Wang Chen, the Falling Star Pavilions Mu Qing Wan, etc. All of these people possessed some reputation across the entire Central Plains region. After all, among the competitions between the younger generation, the 4-pavilion grand meeting was considered to be of a superior quality. Even some of the experts from the older generation had difficulty achieving the requirements. The location where the 4-pavilion grand meeting would be held was usually decided by the party who had won the last season's competition. The victor of the last grand meeting was the Wind Lightning Pavilion, hence, the location this time was decided to be the Wind Lightning Eastern Pavilion. The Wind Lightning Eastern Pavilion was situated in the Wind Lightning mountain range near the border of the northern region. This place was extremely unique. Perhaps it was because the terrain was too high, but there was always a rumbling thunder sound. The weather was also unpredictable. At first it may be extremely sunny, but the next moment, a thunderstorm may appear. The entire Wind Lightning mountain range was the territory controlled by the Eastern Pavilion. This place was just like their backyard. Other factions who were not strong did not dare to encroach into this area. A ray of light bounded across the sky outside of the Wind Lightning mountain range like a falling star. It transformed into a person that landed on the top of a mountain. He lowered his head and looked at the ant-like human flow below only to be stunned. The person who had hurried over was naturally Xiao Yan, who had increased his speed along the way. He had basically gone all out during these few days, and had seldom rested along the way. Even by hurrying in this manner, he had exhausted 4 days in order to reach this place. This area has a very dense wind lightning strength. This place should be the Wind Lightning mountain range where the Wind Lightning Pavilion Eastern Pavilion is located. Looks like I'm not late. Xiao Yan found a deserted spot on the mountain peak and landed on the ground. After which, he headed to the foot of the mountain. He helplessly shook his head when he saw the densely packed human flow outside of the Wind Lightning mountain range. It was likely that these people were all here because of the 4-pavilion grand meeting. I wonder if the 4-pavilion grand meeting has begun. Xiao Yan muttered softly to himself before he suddenly took out a thin transparent skin-like item from his storage ring. After which, he covered it over his face. Almost instantly, some changes occurred on the contours of his face. If one did not look carefully, it would likely be difficult for one to recognize him. The reason he had come to the Wind Lightning mountain range was to search for Feng Zunjia. Unless he had no choice, he did not wish to expose himself. After all, he would place himself in a dangerous position if that occurred. Therefore, hiding his appearance was indeed necessary. Xiao Yan rubbed his face after having altered his appearance. After which, he walked out of the dense forest, joined the human flow on the main road that led into the mountain range, and moved toward the Wind Lightning mountain range. The various noises within the noisy human flow, which Xiao Yan had joined, caused his ears to feel a ringing sensation. However, Xiao Yan could only laugh as he forcefully endured it. Damn it, there are too many people. Can the Eastern Pavilion accommodate so many people? The grand meeting is about to begin today. Naturally, there will be a lot of people. It is rumored that the people from the 4 pavilions have already arrived. The final victor in the last competition was the Wind Lightning Pavilion. I wonder just who will be the victor this time around. It is difficult to say. Feng Qing Air, Tang Ying, Wang Chen, and that Mu Qing Luan are no ordinary people. It is rumored that these 4 entered the Heaven Eye Mountain Range's Heaven Mountain Blood Pool some time ago. Their strength will definitely have improved. I wonder if any one of them borrowed the strength of the blood pool to break through the Dou Huang class. These 4 people have the strength at the peak of the Dou Huang class. Adding their tactics, they are even able to exchange blows with some expert Dou Zongs. Whoever is able to break through during this period of time will definitely win. Who knows? There are an unknown number of talented individuals in the Central Plains. There are always some dark horses appearing in each of the 4 pavilion grand meetings. I wonder just who will appear this time around. Dark horse, huh? Naturally, it is that young man called Xiao Yan, who has stirred an uproar within the northern region recently. Even the Wind Lightning Northern Pavilion's chief returned empty-handed after personally chasing him. One can just imagine how terrifyingly strong he is. Qi. Xiao Yan might be strong, but this place in the headquarters of the Wind Lightning Pavilion. Do you think that he dares to come here? Upon entering the mountain range, Xiao Yan swiftly separated himself from most of the human flow. After which, he turned to a deserted forest, increased his speed, and swiftly rushed to the interior of the mountain range. From the information that he had heard earlier, today should be the start of the 4 pavilion grand meeting. Moreover, the thing that excited Xiao Yan most was that the people from the 4 pavilions had arrived, which meant Feng Zunjie should have arrived. If I really meet Feng Zunjie, it is best to observe him quietly before making contact with him. Although teacher has said that I can trust him completely, it is always best to be careful. Xiao Yan's figure transformed into a blurry one that shuffled through the mountain range while this thought lingered in his heart. The heavy burden of rescuing Yao Lao and his father were things that Xiao Yan needed to complete. Hence, he needed to ensure his safety. It was best to be cautious about any uncertain factors. Lightning Mountain was extremely tall. One was unable to see its peak when looking up from its base. The middle portion of the mountain was covered in a dense fog. This fog was a little dark, and it faintly contained lightning flashing within it. Looking from a distance, this mountain peak seemed to be covered by a countless number of bolts of lightning, making it appear extremely majestic. Xiao Yan advanced along with the group and finally came to a stop when he was about to ascend the mountain. At this moment, there were 2 rock roads that led up the mountain. One was provided for those people who had come to watch the grand meeting, while the other was provided for some of the young experts who had come to participate in the grand meeting. The strength of these 2 is quite impressive. I wonder if I will be able to pass through their inspection after having altered my appearance. Xiao Yan slightly frowned. It is unexpected that the participants of this competition are filtered by the Huomu elders of the Eastern Pavilion this time around. These 2 people hold quite a high position within the Wind Lightning Pavilion. The Wind Lightning Pavilion selections have always been harsh. After seeing this today, they do live up to their reputation. Fortunately, I am only here to watch the fun and need to pass through their verification. A group of people in front of Xiao Yan softly conversed while he was frowning. Xiao Yan's heart leaped when he heard this. It seemed that not everyone must be examined by these 2 people. I think that everyone is aware of the rules of my Wind Lightning Pavilion. Anyone who wishes to participate in the grand meeting must first reach the strength of a 3-star Dou Huang or higher. Secondly, he or she must be less than 30 years old. Third, this person must last over 5 exchanges in the hands of the old me. Only by meeting these 3 conditions will one possess the qualification to participate. Of course, if you are only here to watch the fun, you can just climb the mountain using the left stone road. A red-clothed elder Hui explained while everyone was engaged in private conversations. While most people were climbing the rock road on the left side, there were also a couple of young people, who felt that they were quite strong, intending to attempt the right path. However, all of them were swept aside by Elder Hui without exception. These people might have barely met the requirement of a 3-star Dou Huang, but it was clear that they were those that relied on medicinal pills or some natural treasure to support them. Their fighting strengths were similar to that of a 2-star Dou Huang. The Huomu elders did not even raise their eyes when fighting these weak fellows. Xiao Yan by the side also laughed in his heart when he saw this. After which, he increased his speed and stepped onto the rock road on the left. Wait! Xiao Yan's feet had just stepped on the rock road when Elder Hua by the side suddenly turned his head before Xiao Yan could even climb up. Elder Hua frowned as he looked at Xiao Yan. Elder Hua's eyes slowly swept over Xiao Yan's face before faintly saying, "You seem to have reached the qualification to participate in the competition. Why don't you give it a try?" Numerous gazes shot to Xiao Yan when these words sounded. There were many people earlier who had not passed the test, yet this fellow, who appeared ordinary, possessed such ability. "I am not interested in the grand meeting. The reason I have come here is to search for someone." Xiao Yan's voice appeared a little hoarse under his suppression. After saying these words, he ignored Elder Hua, turned around, and climbed to the top of the mountain, leaving behind a group of stunned gazes in the process. "This fellow is too arrogant, no?" The old woman beside Elder Hua knit her brows, glanced at Xiao Yan's back, and asked, "Is there something wrong with that person?" "I don't know. I only sensed the natural fire affinity energy suddenly fluctuate a little when he stepped onto the stone road. For some unknown reason, this person gives me a kind of inexplicable feeling." Elder Hua knit his brows and bitterly laughed. He sighed, "It is most likely just an illusion."